This broadcast is presented by the authority of the Pacific Coast Sports Racing Association and the National Association of Professional Racing Leagues Incorporated for the private use of our audience. Any reproduction, rebroadcast, retransmission, or any other disseminations or the use of this broadcast without the express written consent of the Pacific Coast Sports Racing Association and the National Association of Professional Racing Leagues Incorporated is prohibited. On the PCSRA Sports and Gaming channel from Learfield IMG College. Welcome to Triple P on the Blue Hedgehog TV. Now here's the voice of the PCSRA, Mr. Daniel Voiles.
Welcome to the post-Olympics and controversy that we don't want to talk about, but we will talk about an edition of Triple P. I'm Daniel Voiles here in our PCSRA studios, which we are live because of the fact I have a special podcast coming up later tonight at 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. So I'm working without a net thing here tonight. So, yes, anything that will be said in a very good way so far. It's been a while since we're going to have a long podcast. I mean, the last couple of episodes I've done have been solo by myself, but hey, I'm fine with that. If you're watching this right now at 5 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, we are live at our PCS Race Studios. Another live and race weekend in the books, and we're ready to bring it to you. What the hell happened this weekend from Richmond? So, going to point this out. If you have not subscribed to this channel, I highly recommend you do so, just so that way we get that out of the way. So, that said, today we're going to recap the Richmond weekend, which was controversy, and you'll see why I say that. I'll give you my thoughts on the 10 drivers battling for this season's chase for the championship for the Truck Series. Will we say, was Austin Dillon's move fair or was it foul? I'm going to give you my take on it, and then you can let me know in the comment section down below. I will predict who I think will make the Final Four for the Truck Series. Get ready for their race coming up in a couple of weeks from Milwaukee. And then I will preview this weekend's races at Michigan, as well as the IndyCar race, which only a couple of us have already made predictions as I'm taping this portion of our broadcast here today. So let's talk about let me get over to my NASCAR.com deal so that way I don't forget who is in the playoff grid, because that will be something we'll talk about for the Truck Series since we've completed the regular season. So, starting off with the Truck Series race, tell you how Ty Majeski won Saturday night's Clean Harbors 250 with our race analysis, or race number right now. 9 laps for roughly 70, if you ask me, and only 8 of the 36 starters failed to finish Saturday night's race, which will tell you how that went down. Everybody was in a clean green flag run because we had 20 minutes of practice qualifying, and also we had Cup Cars practice and qualifying, testing out the new soft compound tire, which we'll talk about later on in the episode of Triple P. A lot of teams were, just practicing. We had a nice little rhythm. Everybody wasn't getting aggressive as far as the truck race was concerned, so it was starting to get into a long green flag run. But on lap 57 of 250, Matt Mills blew a right front tire, which he said he had no warning, pounded the outside retaining wall. His chances to make the playoffs done, because he was one of those drivers that if he were to win, he would have been in the playoffs. Of course, he's running the full schedule in the Truck Series, so that is a tough break for Matt Mills. Before that, Jerry Bolham failed to meet minimum speed. NASCAR ended up parking him for driving too slow, which is the first time since Jesse Owuji did it a couple of years ago where he drove too slow as far as that's concerned. Yeah, only one driver, by the way, failed to qualify. That was Hutchins. He would have been the same way as far as that was concerned. Of course, we had the stage caution that happened on lap 70, which Christian Eckes won the stage. Second was Taylor Gray. Third was Grant Enfinger. Fourth, Ben Rhodes. Lane Riggs was fifth. Daniel Dye 6th, Matt Crafton 7th, Corey Heim 8th, ninth was Nick Sanchez, and 10th was Raja Karuth. Everybody made their pit stops. Just after the restart from the stage break, trouble for Matt Crafton, who was having a good run, went to the inside of another truck, which the truck on the outside just sucked the air around on Crafton. He spins around, did a 360, slight kisses the left front fender in the inside wall, which really at an aerodynamic or not an aerodynamic track. Richmond's one of those tracks that's not aerodynamic, so it was going to be a tough day for Matt Crafton. So, and he was another one of those drivers that if he were to win, he would have been into the playoffs for that reason in that race. But sadly for Matt Crafton, he ended up finishing pretty bad. He ended up finishing in 15th. Rest of stage 2 went calm and clean. Grant Infigure ended up winning that stage over Christian Eckes, who finished second. Daniel Dye third. Lane Riggs got fourth. Rounding out the top 5 was Corey Heim. 6th was Ben Rhodes. 7th was Raja Karuth. 8th, Tyler Ankrum. 9th was Taylor Gray. And 10th was Connor Jones. So we talked about a lot of key players that were right near that cut line, like Daniel Dye got a bunch of stage points, which helped his cause as far as that was concerned. Just after the restart from that stage, big trouble in turn number 3. Collected a bunch of drivers. Dean Thompson got into an incident with Ty Dillon, collected the 0-2 of Mason Massey, Matt Crafton, William Sawalich, who, by the way, was driving the one truck for Tricon Garage this week at Richmond. Keith McGee was involved, as well as Thad Moffitt. Moffitt was ineligible to make playoffs because he missed a race, which was too bad. And also the 75 of Stephen Parsons. Thompson, Moffitt, McGee were done for the day. Connor Jones, as well, I'll get to Connor Jones in just a second. After the restart from that, in Rowdy's favorite turn, the 33 that does not get mentioned because he has the dumbest name in racing, spun in turn number 3, didn't hit anything. And then tough break for Connor Jones. He was going slow, trying to get onto pit road, missed pit road, could not find an opening. NASCAR had no choice but to throw the caution. And unfortunately, an electrical problem took poor Connor Jones out of the race, which wouldn't matter to the 66 anyway, since they're not running the full schedule for that. On lap 225 of 250, the 45 of Caden Honeycutt made contact with Ty Dillon in turn number 4. At the same time from that, Nick Sanchez took his truck to the garage with a broken clutch, which is a tough break for him. And then just after the restart, the final caution was a case of, typical short track racing. Brett Holmes got underneath Connor Zilic, by the way, who turned 18. Happy late birthday to Connor Zilic. Got loose, spun Connor Zilic back into the wall. 7 truck was done for the day, but the 7 truck does make the owner's points, which I know some people in the comments are asking, well, why did the 7 truck made the playoffs? It's the owner's playoffs because they are running every race this season. It doesn't matter which driver is in that truck. They're locked into the playoffs in the owner standings, not the driver standings, the owners, because there's 2 different playoffs. You have the owner's playoffs and the driver's playoffs. That is happening in all 3 series. So even if like, let's say Ben Rhodes made the playoffs, which he did, his team did not make the owner's playoffs because the 7 won a race with Kyle Busch earlier on in the season, and they ended up making the playoffs as far as that is concerned. So it's kind of really like, you have 2 different championships, more money for the more money for the drivers than the owner standings, and it's the other way around as far as the owner standings is concerned. Thought I'd give you guys a little FYI on that little deal. So, yes. After that, Ty Majeski ended up going on to win the race, his second win of the season. Christian Eckes, by the way, locked up the regular season championship, or in Rowdy's term, the participation trophy, which still good job to him. He gets 15 playoff points, which, let me tell you, 15 playoff points could be the difference of either making the Final Four or getting eliminated from the championship. That's just the way I see it from my perspective. So, yeah. So, here's your results for the Truck Series race. We'll just do the top 10 as always. Ty Majeski, the winner. Christian Eckes, second. Taylor Gray, third. Grant Enfinger, fourth. Lane Riggs will get fifth. Tyler Ingram, sixth. Ben Rhodes, seventh. Daniel Dye, eighth. Ty Dillon, ninth. And attaboy to Connor Hall, who had no previous experience in NASCAR, makes his Truck Series debut. He gets a top 10. Congratulations to him. And as I said earlier, only 8 of the 36 starters in the Truck Series failed to finish the race. Now that brought up the question of who made the playoffs, which I will now tell you the official playoffs, because now the playoffs were set. So your 10 drivers battling for this season's Truck Series chase for the championship are Corey Heim, Christian Eckes, Ty Majeski, with his second win of the year. Nick Sanchez, Roger Carruth, Grant Enfinger, Tyler Ingram, Taylor Gray, Ben Rhodes, and Daniel Dye. For me, when I look at the playoff grid for the Truck Series, there's a couple of them that do surprise me a bit, and there's a couple of them that doesn't surprise me a bit. But does surprise me as far as the equipment. Let's start with Corey Heim. Corey Heim and Christian Eckes, rather, neither of those two kind of surprised me because they've been the dominant two drivers in the regular season. So seeing them making the playoffs and, with the reformatted points being 39, 36 points above the cut line respectively, that does not surprise me a bit. Ty Majeski, doesn't surprise me to see him make the show, or not make show, made the playoffs. I don't think that's a surprise. I think a couple of surprises on this list. Rev Racing, who didn't win a race last year, they won a race this year won a couple of races with Nick Sanchez. Majeski, by the way, 21 points above the cut line. Nick Sanchez, 16 points above the cut line. Raja Carruth for Spire. Here's the funny part. There's 2 trucks in Spire. The 7 and the 71 are in the owners' playoffs, by the way, which is pretty cool. Grant Enfinger. I'm not surprised Grant Enfinger made the playoffs as a driver, but the team he's driving for, it does surprise me because that could be critical when we go back to Daytona next year for the 2025 season. Owner points come into play, and that 9 truck is going to be safe in the show. Tyler Ingram doesn't surprise me. See him make the playoffs. Tyler Ingram, really good driver. Only 5 points to the good, along with Grant Enfinger. I think those two need some good results, but Grant Enfinger's outran that underfunded equipment, which is really impressive to tell you the truth. Same with Tyler Ingram for MHR, which I know I'm going to derp up on that first part, so I'll just say MHR as far as that's concerned. Taylor Gray has really impressed me. I mean, yeah, Ben Rhodes made the playoffs, and that doesn't surprise me, but Taylor Gray, I want to talk about both of these drivers. Taylor Gray missed a race last year because he didn't turn because of the fact he was not 18. Same deal with Jake Garcia. So I kind of figured, okay, I don't see Taylor Gray making the playoffs last year. I like to see him make the playoffs this year. All of a sudden, look at what he's done. He's made the playoffs. He and Daniel Dye, even though Dye comes into the first round 2 points below the cut line, Daniel Dye and Taylor Gray have been the 2 big surprise names on this playoff grid who I knew from last year they were going to make the playoffs this year. And what do you know? That's a big point to make out. So while I'm not surprised for some of the equipment that made the playoffs, the key factor is, good for them on making the playoffs this year. Now, I mentioned about the owners' playoffs, which, by the way, I'm going to go ahead and tell you about the owners' playoffs. So it's the 11 19 98 2 71 9 18. No surprises there. This is where it gets interesting. The 7 and the 45 made the playoffs, and so did the 17. The 99, which Ben Rhodes made the playoffs, and Daniel Dye, they didn't make the owners' playoffs. But they should be safe as far as owner points is concerned, because that will come into play when we have those provisionals next year. So, yeah. Couple of teams on here that made the playoffs last year, like Front Row Motorsports, who made the playoffs with Zane Smith, did not make it this year with Lane Riggs. That doesn't surprise me, but then again, anything can really happen as far as that is concerned. A couple of other teams, I think they're just ready to try to finish their season as best they can, because while we have 10 drivers battling for a championship, you have another 26 drivers who don't care about the playoffs. They want to go to victory lane as badly as they want to. Even though the Xfinity Series is did not race this past weekend, nothing really changes as far as the playoff grid is concerned. Now let's talk about the Cup race, the Cookout 400 from Sunday night. This was the first time since North Wilkesboro we had the two option. We had the regular yellow Goodyear tires and the red softer of the Goodyear compounds, which they only had two sets of reds. The rest were the regular yellows. So yes. First stage went calm and clean. That went to Christopher Bell. Second was Denny Hamlin. Third went to MTJ, Martin Truex Jr. Fourth went to Joey Logano. More on him later on in the program. Bubba Wallace fifth. Sixth was Chase Elliott. Seventh, Austin Dillon. Eighth went to Eighth went to Chris Buescher, excuse me. Ninth, Tyler Reddick. And 10th, Josh Berry. Nothing happened in stage two. Daniel Suarez, who gambled onto the soft tires, start stage two, paid off, got the stage win over Christopher Bell, Denny Hamlin, Joey Logano, Austin Dillon, your top five. Then it was Michael McDowell, Tyler Reddick, Bubba Wallace, Carson Hocevar, and Chase Elliott, the top 10. And then stage three went into a very long green flag run. So, I've been going back and forth between the OKC Baseball Club and the race and yada, yada, yada. I mean, I was waiting for the race to finally end. But then, in typical fashion, we finally got a caution for an incident. With 2 laps to go, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. and Ryan Preece. Two drivers, right in front of Austin Dillon. Ricky Stenhouse, who's not had the season he would have liked after winning the Daytona 500 last year, and Ryan Preece, who will be losing his ride at the end of the year because we do not know where he's going, because in case you all have not heard, Stewart-Haas Racing is shutting down at the end of the season. So as far as the future is concerned for Ryan Preece, into apologies for the there, spun out going into turn number 1 and caused NASCAR overtime, which a lot of fans were not thrilled about that, including myself, actually, because I really didn't want to see NASCAR overtime, because to be fair with y'all, as my mouse is being a derping hyena, I don't know why. It really sucked to see this incident happen, because if it didn't happen, Austin Dillon could have had a chance to win that race. But everybody had to make pit stop, and then what everybody's been talking about so far the last couple of days, from after the race Sunday and Monday, and I've listened to Bob Pockrass and all that, yada yada yada. So coming into turn 3, Austin Dillon, said, I got to win this race to make the playoffs. And he drives it in hard into turn 3. And, it almost reminds you of like what Ross Chastain did 2 years ago to make the Final Four, to compete for the championship in the in the uh, in the Martinsville race, the final elimination race. Um, driving in too hard, ran into Joey Logano. Did he mean to spin Logano? Really not. But you're coming to the checker flag, all bets are off. So he runs in the Logano, spins Logano out, and then I see Denny Hamlin coming by, and I'm thinking, okay, Denny Hamlin's gonna have this one. No, Austin Dillon turns dead left, like at a 70-degree angle, hooks Denny Hamlin in the wall, which I was like, okay, that was something I was not expecting. And Austin Dillon ends up winning the controversy race. Yeah, I was not expecting that. I was like, well, damn. Austin Dillon taking out both Logano and Hamlin, two drivers I hate, out, which I know a lot of people on Facebook were laughing and saying that's what Denny Hamlin get. But this is where the whole, and of course, as I'm taping this, we don't even know what kind of penalties we'll have, which we will discuss more on that on the Let's Talk Rowdy show, which we'll have a much more discussion on this weekend's race at Richmond, which, by the way, this stream will be over before LTR at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which I hope you'll join us for that. So after the race, Joey Logano decides to smoke his tires and nearly hit the family of Austin Dillon, which, in my opinion, I understand Joey Logano is upset, but you didn't do yourself any favors by doing that, which was totally uncalled for. Number one, and number two, why he did that was beyond me. Which I understand you're upset, but you got to use common sense, because he almost got the entire 3-team hurt. He did, and he also did it in front of a NASCAR official, which is a big no-no, because if we remember that every time we have an incident in the pit lane, we saw it last year when Daniel Suarez got fined for bumping into the 48 of Alex Bowman after the race. He got fined for that. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. got fined for punching Kyle Busch at North Wilkesboro. He got fined for that. And then Austin Hill ran in the back and spun Cole Custer in the Xfinity race at Charlotte back in May. Also got fined for that. So this is really, come to the line of the point of, this is getting a bit out of hand. And of course, for that little stuff, Mr. Logano was called to the NASCAR hauler to have a meeting with the officials for that incident on the pit lane. But, and before I go over the top results for the Cup Series, did he intentionally hook Denny Hamlin? I was looking at this two ways. Denny's coming off the corner, and Austin Dillon is not paying attention to he's paying attention to start finish, which he told Kevin Harvick on Harvick's podcast. He's paying attention to that. So I don't know if Denny came up or Austin, hooked the left. I mean, we're going to have to wait and see what happens with NASCAR, what they decide. But one thing I can clearly confirm as I'm rewatching the video of the Joey Logano deal. See, he almost ran over a couple of pit crews. Let's see. He nearly ran over two officials, the family and members of the 3 team. And then watch right here, the NASCAR official just points at him, tells him to knock it off. And I mean, I have never seen the official so angry, and he chewed out. He says, "I know you're upset, but that was uncalled for." And for a 2-time Cup Series champion, that's definitely a driver who definitely should know better than that. And I think it's I think, this is where the line's going to have to be drawn at some point. Because, I understand, Joey Logano's frustration. He should have won that race. But just because you lost that race and go from winning to finishing 19th doesn't necessarily mean cause an incident and say, okay, I'm just going to try to run over the crew members. No, that's a great way to get your butt in trouble. I mean, I understand he's a 2-time champion in the Cup Series, for crying out loud, but it was immature. It was like a 3-year-old, and then he gets the interview, says Austin Dillon was a joke. I mean, think about this. Austin Dillon was 32nd in points coming into this. And NASCAR got rid of the top 30 in points, even though I'm doing this for a future NR series, more on the NR report later on in the show. To give everybody a chance to make that, well, with the exception of the non-charters, I'm talking about the 36 in that regard, as my stupid connection was being dumb. But anyway, it's so dumb for Joey Logano to do that. So I'm gonna bet you, and I will read the penalty report for next week's show. I'm gonna bet you it's going to be a fine for Joey Logano, no matter what they do to Austin Dillon. Whether if he did right rear hook Denny Hamlin, which it looked like he did, but I don't know if he turned on the wheel because he overshot the corner after he hit Logano. If he did intentionally wreck him, it'll be a 1-race suspension, but Austin Dillon would be in the playoffs. The problem is, would he get a waiver? That's something, NASCAR is going to have to think. And in my personal opinion, Austin Dillon said, I'm trying to go for a win and trying to make sure I make the playoffs, end of discussion. To be fair, I would agree with that sentence, and I see that happening. So I think for me, and this is just my opinion, and we'll find out if I'm right or not, but I will also put the penalty report down in the comment section. It will be pinned after this video is done premiering by the time you're watching this. So do not say if I'm right or wrong. I will have the pinned comment in the in the comment section rather, and tell you if I'm right or not. But do not judge me on as far as the penalty. But this is my prediction. And again, do not judge me until you see the official post from me in the comments. But I think Denny Hamlin is probably not going to get anything. The only one who's getting a penalty would probably be Joey Logano for smoking his tires. Yes, I understand he's upset about, losing the race and all that. Yes, I understand, he had the chance to win that race because he had a good restart, but it doesn't necessarily mean smoke your tires and take out almost 2 NASCAR officials and parents. And I'm waiting for, I'm hoping NASCAR makes a rule to, to make a rule for all the drivers to just go into a different area of the garage area so the family can cross safely and pit crew. Because I do not want to get another scenario like if this happens at Michigan, then something needs to be done about it, and I hope they get something. So that, do not judge me, but let me know what you guys would have said in the comments as far as the penalties after this video goes up. But my prediction is Austin Dillon may get suspended or fined. Doesn't matter about one or the other. And I would say Logano will get probably a hefty fine of, I probably want to say either 50 or 100. I'll be fine with either one of those options, or right in the middle between 50 and 100 grand. So, yeah. So that's just my opinion. And yes. And also, did I not mention congratulations to Parker Retzloff on keeping his car clean, which I know a lot of people have been bitching about the Austin Dillon deal. It's like, why don't we show some love about the other drivers like Parker Retzloff, who had a, let's be honest, even though he didn't have the finish he would have liked, did run for him as far as that is concerned. Now to the top 10 results after I had a blabber, which I'm sorry I had to make a damn rant about it, but, it had to be done. I also failed to mention in between, after stage 3, Martin Truex Jr. blew up, and then we saw the Ricky Stenhouse accident. So, yeah. So the top 10 results for the Cup race, as I had to get something out of my ear here. So Austin Dillon, the winner, pending what happens after this video goes up, whether if it will stand as far as his eligibility in the playoffs, we'll just have to wait and see. Denny Hamlin second, should have been fifth in my opinion, but whatever. Tyler Reddick third, Bubba Wallace fourth, Ross Chastain fifth, Christopher Bell sixth, Kyle Larson seventh, Carson Hocevar had a quiet run in eighth, Chase Elliott ninth. First race for Coca-Cola and also he also got a new sponsor in Slim Chickens, which I hope, which I'll probably make a funny joke on the Let's Talk Rowdy when I join and all that. And Daniel Suarez complete the top 10. Only 2 of the 37 starters failed to finish as far as that's concerned. What grade would I give Richmond? As by the way, Rowdy, my friend, would say 1 race suspension. But again, as of this recording, we're just gonna wait and see what happens. So yeah. But anyway, let's talk about the top story news for the race. August Canapino has parted ways from the 7018, who's been under the news of recently. We don't know who is replacing him beginning this weekend when IndyCar heads to Gateway. So we'll keep an update on that. So yes. Yeah. And of course, Noah Lewis mentioned any potential competition related penalties will be announced today, which by the way, today is Tuesday as I'm doing this video. So we're gonna have to wait and see what happens here, as far as that is concerned. Let's look at the NR report. We were just talking about the NR report, as you can go away. Thank you very much. Let's dive into the highlights of the DRL Red Bull GT Series, the race that happened, as well as the Diva stuff, as we're going to give you today's Diva update and tell you what has been going on around series. Oh yeah, Diva Cup Series will be out on Friday, which I accidentally released the Busch race out. So yes, let's get you caught up on what's been going on in the Diva. Let's start off with the Diva Busch Series. They ran 2 days ago at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Jayla Durazin started the pole position in her number 26 Dr. Pepper Dodge. Led away at the start until we had the first caution of the race, which was a big pileup that took place. Actually, Mackenzie Cervino, who, by the way, is going to be getting a full-time ride in the Winston Cup Series next season. First caution came out. Alexandre Sarnes was involved. So was Yvonne Dune, Wanda Right, Tatiana Guerra, and also Trixie Tang, Elizabeth Gardner, and Alyssa Albon in the 30. So looking at the replay here, Darby King and Elena Lydia got together. Of course, Megan Knight got turned by Angela Thornburg and Alyssa Albon. There's the contact you see there. A lot of drivers got caught up in that incident. Shanti Darwish, who, by the way, will make some plans in the next coming weeks. And then there's where Askarov got involved. Askarov, by the way, will be going full time as she'll be an American citizen in her transition to the U.S. It is her final season in GTSRA before she moves over to the PCSRA in 2026. A lot of cars got taken out, and then Sydney Ball got hooked by Sarnes and unfortunately collected Tatiana Guerra. Just after the restart from that incident, that big pileup in turn number 1, Megan Knight and Alyssa Albon got together, and the 30 goes into the wall with the bottom with the chassis. How did she not get hurt? Charlotte Lopez got a piece of the incident. And of course, we had Wanda McBride get involved. And then, of course, April Winters went on to win the Samstown 300. As you look at the top 10 results, we had April Winters, Mackenzie Servino, Chow Ding, Caitlin Roy, Angela Thornburg, Leila Bakaya, Jayla Derazin, Autumn McDowell, Shanti Darwish, and Balam Kim, your top 10. Only, 30 of the 42 drivers finished the race. 12 of the 42 starters in that race failed to finish. Diva Bush Series next race for them will be, and if I could look at the schedule here, Diva Bush Series race will be at Atlanta coming up next week. We'll have the Cup recap of Las Vegas as well. The DRL Red Bull GT Series had their race yesterday, and Bradley Ream ended up winning that race. Things started off really interesting as far as that race is concerned, but then a caution on lap number 8 involving Season 1 champion Sean Art. Hadley Martindale blew up, got collected Annie Crenshaw, and also collected there's another driver that got collected. 3 cars involved in this wreck. It was a 34 of Chaz Farmer. Of course, 3 of those drivers, Farmer, Sean Art, and Hadley Martindale, all retired out of the race in that regard. So only 3 of those drivers failed to finish. Just after the restart, Addison Peterson got stuffed into the wall by an over-aggressive Nathan Murphy. Well, and it actually looked like Brooke Packett pushed Nathan Murphy up into Addison Peterson, which Peterson scraped the wall, did some pretty significant damage to the right side of her Rain-X Viper. So was a tough break, but Peterson had a finish as far as that's concerned. The final caution came out. Zachary Taylor had a mechanical problem. As he was trying to get off the track, got turned by Nathan Murphy and collected a numerous amount of drivers involved in that incident. And that was pretty much about it. And then Bradley Ream just goes on to win the race. That was pretty much how the race went. So as you look here, as I'm looking at the replay, Zachary Taylor trying to get off the apron, and then right here, just Murphy just ran into the side. Also collected the 16 of Jackson Harrison, and also the Viper involved, which sucks. And a lot of other drivers got collected in that mess. So But, congratulations to Bradley Ream. Your results are this. Bradley Ream won over Zachary Fitzwater, which I'll talk about Zachary Fitzwater in just a second. Prudence Martindale, Carlos Rodriguez, Skylar Taylor, Jared Underhill, Trinity Lee, Timo Mauser, Elena Rohr, and Brooke Packett were your top 10. Only 5 of the 40 starters failed to finish. And one thing I need to mention about Zachary Taylor is that he will be out of the car for quite some time. Annie Thomas will be in the car as the DRL Red Bull GT Series. Not sure where they go for their 4th race of the year. Actually, I can look it up on the DRL Discord. As the Red Bull GT Series, I've also showed you guys the championship. Actually, I'm going to show you guys the championship standings. Red Bull GT Series will head to Sonoma in several weeks' time. As you look at the points, Prudence Martindale, the points leader by 2 points over Jared Underhill and Timo Mauser. Jared Underhill, by the way, the rookie points leader over Summer Wagner. Jesse Art is 4th. Zachary Fitzwater is 5th. Of course, with the situation with his health, he will still have his name covered. However, it will be Annie Thomas behind the wheel. Bradley Ream will be 6th. Summer Wagner 7th. Carlos Rodriguez 8th. Tatiana Guerra and Trinity Lee will be your top 10. Wagner is 2nd in the Rookie of the Year standings. Carlos Rodriguez, Trinity Lee as well. So that is how that went in the Red Bull GT Series, as that was your NR 2003 report. And it was very interesting races at Las Vegas. Of course, the Diva Cup Series will be coming up in action, which I will talk more about that on next week's edition of Triple P and tell you how they do. So, yes. So let's go ahead and preview, first off, the IndyCar race coming up this weekend. They're racing at Gateway. You can catch their race at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Saturday night on USA Network. Should be a lot of fun from Gateway. It's the Bomberito 500 at Gateway. So, I'm looking forward to seeing how that IndyCar race will go. Some of us have already made predictions as far as that's concerned, which, by the way, I will put the predictions down in the description if I do not forget to do that so far. So this weekend, we also have the Xfinity drivers. They haven't been back since Indianapolis, believe it or not. And, of course, as of now, as far as the playoff grid, Austin Dillon is now into the playoff conversation, which knocked Ross Chastain, Chris Buescher out, but that might change with penalties coming up, which we will just have to wait and see what happens. So we have this weekend the Xfinity and Cup races from Michigan. The Xfinity race will be on Saturday. You can catch the what is it called? You can catch the Cabo Wabo 250 Saturday at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Easy for me to say, on USA Network. You can listen to the race on the Motor Racing Network, the voice of NASCAR. Taking a look at the entry list for the Xfinity Series. Of course, all of us will make our predictions later today or tomorrow, depending how I feel as far as that's concerned. We have Daniel Dye back in the 10 this week. The 15, that's not going to get mentioned because he's got the dumbest name in racing. Taylor Gray in the 19, John Hunter Nemechek in the 20, Jeffrey 26. Gray race on Friday night at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on FS1. A lot of fun, if you ask me. Should be exciting. Can't wait for see how the Xfinity race will go. And then Sunday we have the Cup race. You can catch the Firekeepers Casino 400 at Michigan Sunday at 2:30 Eastern Standard Time on USA Network. You can also listen to the race on the Motor Racing Network, the voice of NASCAR. Taking a look at the Cup entry list. Only a couple of names on here. Cody Ware in the 15 this week. AJ Allmendinger in the 16. And I believe those are the only two that we have. And, of course, all 36 charter teams are entered. So no issues as far as that is concerned. So right now, of course, we got, like I said, the ARCA race will be on Friday night, which let me look at the ARCA race. Excuse me. The ARCA race schedule, as they will race at Michigan International Speedway, which I'm trying to get to Michigan. You can catch the Henry Ford Health 200, which is Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Should be a lot of fun. And then, of course, the race will be 100 laps, 200 miles. I don't know why they're having that is concerned. Final, and I also need to point this out. The ARCA final appeal officer, Mr. Rolly Hemmerling, heard and considered an appeal of a behavioral penalty issued on July 11th to the 55 crew member Kevin Reed Jr. Upon hearing the testimony, the decision of the ARCA final appeal officer are as follows. That the appellate violated the rules set forth in the penalty notice, that the final appeal officer has adjusted the penalty to a suspension of one race weekend and a no tolerance probation for the remainder of 2024 and an indefinite period beyond. This is what the appeal officer tried an explanatory quote. The integrity of competitive, fair, and safe competition is a sanctioning body's obligation. Racing cannot continue without engaging entrants, exciting fan base, recognized partners, and quality facilities to conduct racing events. All these must be accomplished and connected. The project and actions of ARCA racing participants in both in person and on media is vital to the future and sustainability of the racing series. Regrettably, the actions at the conclusion of the July 6th race, ARCA West Series race at Irwindale, which, by the way, Sean Hignorani swept the weekend, put this at risk. Even though all involved had their respective best interests competing in this race, there were occurrences that night which placed this in jeopardy, end quote. Yeah, not surprised about that. So, yeah. If that doesn't surprise you, then I don't know what does. So, yeah. Like I said, all of our NASCAR picks will be either down in the description or on the Discord, the PCS Ray Discord. Link will be down in the description below. Looking forward to that. So, yes. Now let's go ahead and get to my final thoughts of the night. For me, I think, we're leaving Richmond with a bad taste in our mouth. I hope Michigan will be a fun race. Of course, it is our only 2-mile race because, we don't know what's going on with the future of Auto Club Speedway. Whether or not the short track will happen or not, we'll have to wait and see. For me, in my retrospect, I really would like to see some good racing. Hopefully nobody right rear hooks somebody in the wall, because this is a fast 2-mile track, and the speeds are really high, and I don't want somebody getting hurt and all that. And also Kyle Busch will have his hand rewrapped as far as that's concerned. That's tough for a driver who's right now in a must-win situation. Michigan this week, next week Daytona, and then the regular season finale at Darlington Raceway. It's going to be really tough to see what's going to happen in the next couple of weeks, but of course we will just have to wait and see about that. So, yeah. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it for tonight's episode of Triple P. Join us next week as we're going to recap the race weekend from Michigan, the ARCA race on Friday night, even though we don't talk about ARCA a lot. And then preview the following. We have F1 back from their summer vacation. They'll be at the Dutch Grand Prix. IndyCar will have the doubleheader from the I think that's at Mole. No, where are they racing next weekend? IndyCar. Let me actually pull up their schedule so I don't Hold on, let me do this so I'm not derping. Let's see. IndyCar's next race is going to be at Portland in 2 weeks. Is going to be in Portland in 8 days' time, which will, by the way, be the BitNow.com Grand Prix of Portland at 3 o'clock Eastern Time. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about the first race of the playoffs for the Truck Series. We have Daytona for Xfinity Cup. And then that's about it. So, yes. So, that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you guys a lot for joining me for tonight's episode of Triple P. Hope you'll join me for the. I will be a part of the Let's Talk Rowdy. We'll find out if Tyler's whacking off at somebody and all that goodness. So, yes. Hope you'll join us for that on the Let's Talk Rowdy show at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time tonight. And thank you guys so much for joining me here on YouTube for Triple P for this week on my channel. If you guys enjoyed this episode, be sure to give it a like. If you haven't considered subscribing yet, I highly recommend you do so in order to keep up with some wonderful content coming out in the near future, as well as future episodes of your favorite podcast coming out the rest of this weekend onward to the next. Looking forward to talk about what happens after the Irish Hills of Michigan. I'm Daniel Voles, aka PCS Ray Blue Hedgehog 26, signing out, saying you've been watching yet another broadcast of PCS Ray TV, where champions are made since 2010 and the best in our racing around the world since 2017. Have a great rest of your night, everybody. We'll talk to you on the Let's Talk Rowdy show. Otherwise, we'll talk to you next week. You've been listening to Triple P on the PCS Ray Radio Network.